So we will get started. Welcome everyone to today's public hearing. We have two items on the agenda today, and that is the future use of the building known as Love's Jazz and Arts. And then we will follow that up with our very fun to me, very bureaucratic process of the Consolidated Annual Performance Evaluation Report, the CAPER. And so I want to set a few starting points out. First off, we are on the Zoom and have looks like 16 people who have joined us through Zoom. And I see only about a quarter of those are planning department staff and accounts. So really happy to have everyone with us. We are going to do this in the following way. I will give a little bit of an introduction, and then I'm going to have Ms. Lavanya Goodwin speak about the North 24th Street BID, because the city has worked with the BID in order to operate and manage the building known as Love's Jazz and Arts. And the person and program that they have selected to operate out of there to keep this building a public space, because it is city owned and supported with federal funds, is Mr. Dana Murray and his nonprofit North Omaha Music and Arts. Got that right. NOMA, we will call it from here on out. So after that, I'll have a video from my colleague Lisa about the CAPER. So if you are on Zoom, you may raise your hand and request to be unmuted so that you can ask questions or comments. We're going to do that at the end of Lavanya and Dana's presentations so that they can get through and you can hear all the information and then ask questions and make comments after that. If you are on Facebook Live with us, you can type your question into the comment section and we will answer it from there, or we'll read it from there. We're monitoring that, and hopefully we'll be able to answer your question today. But if we can't, then we will get back to you, and we will do so in a public manner. So what it probably will be is updating our website and updating the comment section on the Facebook. But that's how we are doing things in the age of COVID. And hopefully that works for everyone. We will give you, if you raise your hand and are unmuted, we will give you 3 minutes to speak as you get at City Council. And I do ask that everyone behave yourself. This is a public record. It will be available for everyone to see for the future. So please be kind and respectful. And after 3 minutes, I'll give you a little wrap-up notice, and then we will mute so that we can get everyone in if they have questions. I think that's all I have. Does anyone want to raise your hand and ask a question right now? Or Dana, Lavanya, do you have anything to add before we get going? All right. So the Love's Jazz and Arts building has been a cornerstone at 24th and Lake for decades. And it's now vacant. And I'm really, really excited to have everyone listen to Dana's vision for the program that he's going to operate out of that. I know that Dana is a huge inspiration to his students. I used to know some of his students, and I know how highly they regard him. So to have him able to run a program that will benefit the neighborhood around 24th and Lake and to benefit our city as a whole is very exciting. So Lavanya, do you want to kick it off with an introduction to the BID and to how you chose this program?
Absolutely. Thanks, Nicole. Well, before I have you show our slide, again, Nicole, we've been working very hard, really almost for the last year, to come to this moment where we could share our plans and vision for Love's Jazz. As Nicole mentioned, my name's Lavanya Goodwin, and I am the board president of the North 24th Street Business Improvement District. But for those of you who don't know me, I'm also born and raised here in Omaha, and actually began residing literally on North 24th Street when I was 16 years old, graduated from Omaha Central, and then went to Creighton University. So spent a lot of time in and around the North 24th Street area. And now I co-own and manage Goodwin Spencer Street Barbershop, which many of you guys know is a staple business right here on North 24th Street. And so what today I want to do is put on my BID hat and talk about the Business Improvement District for many of you who may not understand what this new entity is all about, and then also talk about our process in which we were really given by the mayor's office to determine the next step in programming for the former Love's Jazz building space. So Nicole, do you have those slides? All right, great. So the North 24th Street Business Improvement District is one of 6 BIDs or business improvement districts in the Omaha area. Our mission is really to support the development, improvement, promotion, and safety of the historic North 24th Street. And we are established by a state statute, meaning the state of Nebraska has given the ability for entities to form business improvement district for specific tasks and goals that support a specific area. Next slide. Our area here is Meredith Avenue to Cummings Street, and we go a little bit east to 20th Street and a little bit west to 25th Street. The primary purpose of this area is to carve out the commercial and business properties within the area in order to provide improvement. Although we've been working toward the process of the BID really since 2018, we were officially established by city ordinance in June of last year. And we are the second largest BID in the city. We are only smaller in size to the downtown BID. And then we also run about 2.3 miles from north to south. It's important to point out some of the other BIDs in the city, including Blackstone, Benson, Dundee, Elkhorn, downtown, and now the North 24th Street makes the first business improvement district in North Omaha and the 6th BID in the city.
Lavani, we got a question on Facebook.
That's a great question. So first of all, by state statute, a person can only be appointed in by the board based on, you have to have a residence, you need to be a business occupier or a commercial property owner within the BID area. You would then apply for the board if you meet those standards, and then you have to be appointed by the board essentially by the mayor and then approved by city council. So we don't actually choose the BID board, but there are very strict stipulations to actually even being on the board. And that's a great thing, because what it really means is you've got to be a stakeholder in the area to actually even be on the board or be considered for the board. But it also means that people who live and work and own property in the area are making decisions for how the area moves forward. So I think that's actually a plus. So we cover very specific areas, and there are business improvement districts, I believe over 1,000 across the nation. So some of them do begin to take on different forms, but these are the 5 areas where you're going to see a BID cover. That's maintenance, beautification, promotion, parking, and lighting. What you see highlighted here in red is the areas that we began to focus on as our primary goals: litter removal, facade improvement, and streetscapes. And I'm happy to say, although we're not quite a year old, we're already tackling these problems in a really big way with our litter control team and with our streetscape plan, as we really work on even safety and security. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. So who's a part of the BID? Again, it's a very defined area, and meaning that we have over 192 commercial properties. We have over 177 residential properties and 65 tax exempt properties. The reason why defining these property areas is important, because how the BID works is that we actually assess a special tax to then put money back into the community. Now, it was very important to the interim board when we started the BID is to make sure that residents weren't taxed. So with the first, project goals we had, we made sure it was just commercial property owners that were going to participate in the special tax. However, many of our tax exempt or nonprofit entities wanted to share in that tax assessment. Okay, let's see. So one of the first things we did was determine that we needed a litter control and beautification team. And so one of our primary goals, and many BIDs start this way, is to reduce and manage the litter within the North 24th Street BID area. So we hired 2 groundskeepers. They're very faithful to pick up the incidental litter along the corridor. But I do want to stress, although we have now a team, and that special assessment goes toward paying this team, as well as special events to clean up litter. We're about to have a litter control cleanup April 24th. We still need stakeholder support in managing litter and following municipal codes and guidelines. So I want to put a plug in for help us use the trash cans that are placed along the corridor area, and really help us to beautify the area, which was one of our primary goals. Another thing that we're really working really hard on is safety and security. And some of the wins we had last year was to prevent loitering along North 24th Street, especially between the hours of 12 a.m. and 6 a.m. On private property. So you're going to see that there are more properties with closed property signs. You're also seeing more properties with dusk to dawn lighting, as well as beginning to have conversations about how do we keep our community safer. Last year, the BID worked with other stakeholders in the area to put out a public service announcement to keep it safe, keep it clean, keep it respectful, and keep it legal. And we want to elevate that message even more this year to make this environment a place where everybody wants to live, work, play, and worship. Again, we're covering a lot of ground here with North 24th Street, because we realize that one of the reasons why business improvement districts are put in place is because of disinvestment in a given area. So when we started our initial board in 2019, we began to walk the North 24th Street area along the front footage. And not only was litter a primary observation, but also that we didn't have sidewalks from Meredith to Cummings Street. And then some places where we did have sidewalks, they weren't wide enough for people to walk side by side. And when you compare to how other revitalized area like Exarban, or even older parts of town like downtown, have the ability to walk side by side, have safe, sidewalks and infrastructure, we knew we needed to take that on. So in December of last year, we formed an advisory team. We hired a consultant, and we went toward working toward a master plan that we've now submitted to the city of Omaha to improve our streets. And that's the sidewalks, that's traffic speed, that's lighting. We're looking at everything to make this for our kids to cross the street, where it's safe for the elderly to navigate, where it's safe for cyclists, pedestrians, where we have the proper multimodal transportation, and to begin the public investment that will then be the prelude to private investment. So many of you may have been aware of our master plan, and this is just a short screenshot of what we're envisioning. And you might say, hey, I haven't heard about this yet. Well, I'm glad you asked, because I put the link down here below where you can still participate in your, not only your ideas, your concern for the North 24th Street Streetscape Master Plan. We have our meetings on recording where you can get caught up to that conversation, because we want the community, especially those of you who live, work, and play in the area, worship in the area, to be involved in how we improve, you know, the navigation of this corridor. So I'm sure we'll have this out not only in the chat, but also put it on the links so that people know that they can go to mysocialpoint.com and actually give their input toward how we move forward in developing the streets along North 24th Street. Who are our board members? Someone asked before, how do you get involved on the board? Well, you got to have some level of stakeholdership in the area as it's defined by state statute. Here's a list of our board members. Most of these people on the board have been tracking with us since 2018. So I can tell you, if you want to be on the board, you got to be serious about doing the work, because the BID is an entity that we don't just talk, we don't just complain. We get down to business and we make some things happen. And so this is our BID board as it stands today. We also formed a 501c3 because we knew that there was going to be work we needed to do, that we needed to apply for grants, and we needed to have a staff. And so this is our association board. It's a part of a 501c3 that really is designed to support the BID work. And we are structured very similar to downtown in the way they not only have a BID city appointed board, but then have another organization that supports the work of the BID. And so this is just a quick recap on what we can realize together. Restoring a unified business district, you know, not only that, but improving the overall look and feel and livability of North 24th Street, and elevating the culture and history of North 24th Street to really help capitalize on tourism that really is a really booming business that downtown really sees the benefit of. We're neighbors to downtown. North 24th Street should be able to see the benefit of tourism and really elevate the history that we also know and love about North 24th Street. So that's an overview of the BID. And with that, I'll go into a little bit about Love's Jazz before I turn it over to Dana to talk about the programming. So last year, we were actually, the BID was actually brought into the conversation about Love's Jazz because there was an entity, a board that was running programming in that space. Now, I think it's very important for everyone to keep tracking with the fact that there are 3 buildings on the corner of 24th and Lake that we all know as Love's Jazz. They are owned by the city. They are still owned by the city of Omaha. So the city invited the BID, which is one of the primary partners of the city of Omaha on North 24th Street, to be the master lessee or begin to oversee some of the operations and what was going on in the building itself. Technically, you might call that a property manager, but for the sake of real estate technicality, master lessee is really a better way to look at that. And so we began talking with the former board of the entity that was running programming there. Well, by October of 2020, though, that conversation had dissolved. And the city of Omaha, you may remember, there was a press release and also in the paper, go back and read, essentially it was that the city was ready to move on and in the lease with the former board that was in that space. And then the mayor charged the BID boards with the task of finding new programming for that space. And there was some specifics that we had to go by. We needed to make sure that we were bringing music education, North Omaha history education, and, you know, programming for the youth. And so with that, you know, we began to think about what was the best way to approach that. Now, there are timelines. You may have heard that Nicole said that there are government dollars invested in this building. So we were thinking about, okay, how do we make the best decision in the fastest amount of time, and yet keep in mind that there were programs, there were funding assigned to the building with some timelines that we were keeping in mind. And so essentially what we did is Preston Love Jr. presented with a plan, which really focused a lot on the work he does with Black Votes Matters. He also wanted to have a component to do the North Omaha tours. And then we also, invited Dana Murray, who I have known for a very long time, and understood that he had really professional work and experience in the music industry, really like none other on the ground here in Omaha. And so both entities, both Preston Love Jr. and Dana Murray, submitted proposals to our board. Our board then had 2 separate interviews with each proposal, which was Dana Murray and Preston Love Jr. We then also had them write responses to questions that the board had. And then we also had them talk to determine if collaboration made sense at this time. And then the board voted. And at that time, we asked Mr. Love and Mr. Murray, would they accept the decision of the BID's board? Both parties said yes. Well, I believe it was March 5th, after much deliberation, the board decided to ask Dana Murray to provide programming for the Love's Jazz space. And he has now begun to develop a 501c3 called North Omaha Music and Arts. And so it was a very deliberative process. If anybody wants to look at our notes, I'm sure you will find that it was a hard decision, but a fair process. And I think that what Mr. Murray can provide to not only the space, but the energy, the education, and the excellence to our students in North Omaha, I think everyone's going to be thrilled about. And so with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to my very good friend, Dana Murray, to talk more about North Omaha Music and Arts.
Wow, how do I follow that up? Hello, everybody. A lot of people I'm sure know me that are on here, but there are a lot that don't know me. So again, I'm Dana Murray. I'm from Omaha, and I think I left here in about 1991 when I left to go to college. I think it's probably best that, you know what, I'm going to use the same process that I used when I was when Lavanya came to me and told me about the aspirations of the former Love's Jazz and my reaction to it. And it's funny because from that first initial phone call till now, that was probably only a few months. So things have moved really, really fast. But as soon as I genuinely felt that this was something that I felt it to be a responsibility that I dedicate my time and commitment to it, it was game on. So I'd like to carry you guys through a little bit of how that happened, because things really had to align a certain way for it even to come about. So I've grown up with Lavanya. We've known each other probably since we were 7 or 8, running around South Omaha, Stratford Square apartments. And we attended the same church throughout our teens, but I hadn't seen Lavanya in years, probably since, man, I was maybe 18 or 19. And to make a long story a lot shorter, my neighbor, everyone knows how tumultuous last 2020. So my neighbor, Mike, who lives right across the way, I offered to have conversations with people that don't look like me. So just to have no misunderstandings about where people stand and, to have some of those tough conversations to move the needle. So he and I had a conversation, a great boat ride. A few weeks later, he tells me, "Hey, Lavanya Goodwin says hi." I says, "What?" I won't tell you guys her nickname from when we were little. I says, "Oh man, I've known her forever." Uh, so then, probably a couple weeks later, then I get a phone call from her telling me about Loves Jazz and all that they're trying to do. So for that to even go down was crazy to begin with. So fast forward to when I presented a plan, to when they greenlit the plan. Um, in that span of time, I mean, we formed our 501, which, we have our EIN number now. We're just waiting on our uh, nonprofit tax status. I formed my team, advisory board, executive board, started the curriculum. I mean, there's so much that I can't even talk about it all because it would take way too much time. But in that little bit of time, what I told Lavanya and the BID when I came on board is, just as you guys are vetting me, I am vetting you. And I said that because of this. It's going to take way more than me to make it successful in that community, much more than just me. I have great ideas. I'm willing to maximize my area of expertise. And I am insisting that everyone else does the same. The BID is leaders of that community, and I am insisting that with their resources and their insight to the inner workings of that community, they have to help this get done. And I'm imploring the community itself, everyone that has something to give, man, whether it be an idea, whether it be time, whether it be support, uh, that's what it's going to need. But with that, there's no way it can fail. Without that, much like a lot of things uh, in our communities, if you will, they seem to come up short of some of the goals um, due to either mismanagement or lack of support. Uh, you will never have lack of support from me or my team or anything that I bring to the table. Um, I go all out. I know one gear, and I set the bar extremely high. And I think the kids that I've been able to educate um, have benefited from that process. So I'm going to take you guys through a little bit of what I did to sort of uh, get the BID to see the vision that I had. So I'm going to start with just a video on just who I am. If you've seen this, I'm sorry. Bear with me a little bit. Can you guys see my screen? Yeah? Okay. So here's a little video about me. I hate talking about myself, but instead of me talking, a video is much faster. So here you go. 1971. I am a South Omaha boy. Most of my adolescence was spent growing up in the South Omaha projects. This was a severely underserved community. But from the spirit of its people, you would have never known. I was raised by a single mother of three. This was the one who taught me how to dream. If I could dream it, I could be it. This is where my passion for drumming began. It was all about drill team. My mission in life became to one day be able to play in a group like that. I became obsessive about practice, 6, 7, 8 hours a day. By the time I was in 11th grade, I had become first chair All-State and performed in various orchestras throughout the Midwest. Eventually, all that practice earned me a full ride scholarship to the prestigious Berklee College of Music. It was everything I had ever dreamed of. State-of-the-art facilities, thousands of musicians, more practice. At age 23, I moved to the Big Apple, New York City. The bar had been raised.
I just implemented the same work ethic that it worked for me all those years. The big breaks started to come. To name a few, I've been blessed to play with legends such as Jimmy Witherspoon, Wynton Marsalis, Donald Byrd, Branford Marsalis, the Broadway show Tommy, Karen Wheeler of Soul to Soul, Nora Jones, Aloe Black. I've also played on over 40 albums with diverse artists from all around the world. But in 2005, I had become a single father. Wasn't going to do that in New York. So I took a sabbatical. The biggest joy in my life has been watching my son grow into a young man. When he graduated high school in 2015, it was time to get back to the music. And get back to it I would. Just like that, I was back at it, playing with the artists that I'd spent my entire life developing the ability to be able to play with. The thrill of playing, touring, recording was absolutely intoxicating. By this time, I had remarried. My wife Deb and I bought a house on the lake and proceeded to build a state-of-the-art recording facility. I do a lot of music production. Being able to do it from home is an absolute blessing. It was here that I started writing my first solo album, entitled Negro Manifesto, on Rope-A-Dope Records. My commentary on social injustices surprisingly garnered worldwide critical acclaim. In 2018, it was time to take this show on the road. We toured the Midwest, East Coast, and Canada, spreading the music and the word. Music has taken me all over the world. But in the end, I'm still that little boy. That little boy that at a young age learned how to dream and was blessed enough to have someone that instilled in him confidence, focus, dedication, and commitment. These are the life skills that I'm dedicated to giving back.
Okay, can everybody still hear me? Okay, blah blah blah. I hate to talk about myself. There you have it. That's my time away from Omaha when I moved away and did my thing as an adult. Coming back here, obviously, a lot of my world shifted to education. Um, I think when I came back here, I didn't realize that I had such a passion for that. But my world through education has been every bit as rewarding, more rewarding than my professional career. And it's interesting because if I wouldn't have come back to Omaha, I don't know that I would have ever pursued that. So someone else must have controlled that happening. So what I'm going to show you guys now is a video, sort of the my educational path here in Omaha. A lot of people know that um, I taught from middle school level all the way up through university. I taught at UNO for, I think it was 8 years. I started uh, a satellite program at um, Beverage Magnet School that we started out with, I think, one class a week, and it advanced to, I was there every day doing 2 classes a day. So to watch that program grow from a little seed into what it became in 5 years was pretty special. Um, and then I taught at Bellevue East High School. I taught at Burke High School, and I had a nonprofit called Dojo Percussion, which is basically a competing percussion ensemble that competes against other groups from around the world. You're like, what is that? That sounds crazy. I know. It's sort of like a marching band without the horns that compete against other groups from around the world. It's massive. I know it doesn't sound like it would be, but it's a massive undertaking. But I'll show you a little bit of my education history now. Drumming is a catalyst for something much bigger. Drumming is a byproduct of just being a serious, committed young person. If I'm successful, they're going to be able to apply these tools to whatever it is they're doing. I guarantee they're going to be better at it. I am Dana Murray, Director of Dojo Percussion from Omaha, Nebraska. I am Bandit.
Hi, my name is Chris Hankus, and I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing Experience for KHS America. When I first met with Dana Murray regarding a potential collaboration between our brands of musical instruments and dojo percussion, it didn't take long to figure out that it was going to be a good fit. We really were very well aligned in terms of our motivation. At the heart of our company is the idea that music is an essential part of life. And Dana and I were quickly talking about the role that music plays in society. We were talking about the power of music to change lives for the better. And it spoke to me. And it was easy to say yes, and led to what turned out to be a great relationship and a lasting relationship. I've had the honor and privilege to see the results of this work firsthand. I remember being in Dayton, Ohio for WGI Finals and being out at the rehearsal site with Dojo Percussion late one night and watching a rehearsal and seeing the quality of music education that was taking place, but also the quality of life education that was taking place. And the results were also apparent when I had a chance to spend time with the students and speak with them one-on-one. Over a snack after rehearsal. Those interactions really are something I won't soon forget. The kindness and respect that was shown, but also the gratitude and the sense of community and family that was there, all spoke volumes to what was being taught and the way that music was able to bring people together, which is so important. You know, I believe that Dana's work is important work. The work of music education is important work, but when it's done by somebody with the talent and the drive and the vision that Dana has, it becomes that much more powerful. And it has absolutely been a pleasure for us to be a part of that. And I hope we can continue to play some small part in the future. I'm very much looking forward to the next steps and seeing the evolution of his work and what he's looking to develop there in the community.
What if we had the nerve to want more for our communities? What if we had the nerve to demand that our children be afforded the same opportunities as those more fiscally fortunate than them? What if we had the nerve to bring our children the best teachers, provide them with the best equipment, and a safe place to develop their mind? What if we had the nerve to want more opportunities, more attention, more nurturing, more mentoring, more hope, more? Children are indeed the future. More importantly, children are the now. What if we had the nerve to do more now?
Okay, so I found that just presenting some videos, it translates my vision faster, a lot more effectively, and people can see the gist of where I'm coming from. I do have some more slides, more of PowerPoint sort of things I'll show you guys in a minute. But before we go on, are there any questions so far?
And there's usually about a 50-second delay on Facebook, just
Okay.
let you know.
How about I go into a PowerPoint now? I'm going to share my screen again. Yeah. They can still hear me, right? Okay. So as we've stated, the name of the organization is North Omaha Music and Arts. I wanted to put the name North Omaha in it because it's important. Um, that's the community that it is uh, playing a big role to move the needle towards progress. Obviously, we are a place of learning that is inclusive and open to everyone. But there is, in my estimation, a real need for change as it pertains to reaching the youth uh, in the North Omaha community. So, uh, North Omaha Music and Arts was just fitting. So, what is NOMA? Music and Arts Academy, progressive music education, progressive life skill teaching. We set the bar high. There's an audition process to even get to become a part, which should never turn anyone away because, especially as we open the doors, uh, we're not wanting to turn anyone away. Um, but just know that the bar of expectation will be set high. And a lot of these kids that come through the program, a lot of these kids aren't going to go on to be professional musicians. So what are we doing? Well, we're giving them skills and tools to apply to whatever it is they're going to do. And it has been my experience that that's the thing that's most lacking, especially in society today. It's a lot different than when I went to high school. There wasn't even internet when I went to high school. Just that transition from that period to now, that is extreme. Uh, and I don't think education has caught up to that moment to create things that are uh, effective for the youth of today. It'll happen. I don't think it's happened yet. Um, that's been my experience. So what I've gone off of is just drawing a case study from teaching so many different levels of students and learning how to reach them where they're at through means of communications that they are used to. Uh, a lot of those communications, I think, generations before would scoff at even having to participate in that. Uh, Again, that is exactly what you have to do if you're trying to reach kids of this generation. So let's move on.
We do have a question on Facebook.
Sure.
It says, will there be an element of providing education that is tied to credentials, certifications, work experience, or apprenticeships? If so, would you recommend collaborating with WIOA Youth to utilize funding allocated to help young adults?
Yes, 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 and yes. Anything that is going to help empower the youth, uh, not having vetted what you just brought forth, anything that is going to empower and move the needle towards progress, I'm all for, period. Whatever that might be. Um, there is a real need. And I think uh, we as the adults have to treat this much like the world is treating the pandemic. Well, there is a pandemic state in a lot of uh, underserved communities like North Omaha. Um, so if we treat it like a crisis and we treat it like it's something that we need to have a sense of urgency with, uh, that motivates a whole multitude of platforms that can bring about change. So I'm always open to whatever is going to make that happen.
And we do have another question.
Okay.
How rigorous will the auditions be? For many kids in the area, they have not been exposed to the arts, and this could be a great entry or gate to discourage them if they have to audition and they have not been exposed but have an interest.
You know what? To be honest with you, I not very at the beginning. Again, I'm not wanting to turn anyone away. We want to set the bar. We have I can look towards the future and look at what I want it to be. When we open the doors, it's not going to be about you have to be at this level or you have to be at that level. Uh, but everyone that comes in that door, there is an expectation of excellence, uh, and how they go about develop developing and being dedicated to that process. Uh, that'll be outlined in our mission statement. So more so than anything, it's not an audition of uh, musical proficiency more than it is uh, figuring out where a young person's head is. Are they committed to uh, being a part of the academy and everything that it stands for? That's what we will be vetting more than anything. So, um, just making sure that the principles uh, are upheld and that everyone is very aware of collectively where we're trying to go. Are there any other questions?
That's it for now.
Yeah, and to further on that, when I first started putting the pieces together, a lot of this was very fast because I've had an idea about a music academy for a long time. When I started Dojo Percussion, it was supposed to be an ensemble underneath an umbrella of a school. Little did I know how much time and effort, uh, blood, sweat, and tears the actual ensemble uh, would require. So I never really got around to doing the academy part of it. So a lot of these ideas I've had on my mind for forever. And I think I thought at first that it was more like a model, like a mini Berkeley School of Music. But the more I think about it, it's, I grew up going to the boys club. Well, the now Boys and Girls Club. Then it was just the boys club. Um, and that was the place for our whole South Omaha community, man. That was the spot. It offered so much to keep our minds occupied. I look at this academy more of a boys and girls club for music. That makes sense. Um, I just want to give them what they think is cool. I'm not trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. Uh, I want to give the kids the stuff that they think is cool and motivate them to max out uh, whatever they're putting into it. So, um, as you can see here, uh, we'll offer drums, percussion, piano, brass, woodwinds, dance. Uh, Poetry and spoken word is just another name for a young rapper. It's like I want these young rappers to have an informed opinion about stuff when they're talking. So obviously there's a lot of young kids that want to go and who are aspiring rappers. So we're gonna give them uh, we're gonna pave a more concise road to how to get from point A to B with that. Music production, we'll have a full music studio, so kids will be able to get into music production. There's a lot of aspiring young music producers, and they can do a whole lot even on their phone, on their computer. Uh, if you just point them and tell them how to do it, they have so many tools at their disposal. And that's what I mean. One of the ways that I mean reaching them where they are with the forms of communications and the tools that they have right in front of them. Uh, so, and also DJing for all the young aspiring DJs or future DJs, and music history and appreciation. That is a huge part of the agenda. Teaching kids about music history, the important players uh, throughout music history, and a big part of that will be teaching North Omaha history. You know, um, which is has a significant place not only in the music in this country, um, but the music of the world. There are so many great musicians that came out of North Omaha that no one would know about. Um, and I think there are a lot of people uh, from generations past that really want to uh, shine light on the history of North Omaha. Uh, just know that I am committed to doing that as well. I graduated in 1989. Um, I got a chance to play at Showcase Lounge with Preston Love. I learned from watching, um, but there was no um, comprehensive route to learning about what the history was of North Omaha. There was no one that sat a group of kids down, at least my generation, and was teaching us about the importance of the history and the players within it. That's all stuff that even as adult I've had to go figure out. And I don't know how the next generations would have learned that, you know. And I was very self motivated, so I'm really um, it's going to be a big part of the agenda to make sure that we create a platform in which kids can learn uh, and where what they're learning they can apply to themselves. Because with all of our heroes that have come out of that community, every I've lived in Harlem, I've lived in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, I've lived in Queens. Every community of color has a Martin Luther King Boulevard, has a Malcolm X Drive, um, and it's beautiful to support and celebrate uh, the people, the players that made it better for us. Um, Outstanding individuals who look like us. But a lot of times, what doesn't accompany that is what they did to become who they are, right? That's what kids need. Tell me how Preston Love uh, got to be the player that he became. What was his practice regimen? What were some of the albums that he listened to? What were some of the things and methods that he did to get from point A to B as a musician? That's what people can carry with them, right? So I'm committed to that. And again, you guys are just getting to know me. I have opinions about everything. I'm not always right, but I come with a ton of opinions. And just know that all I care about is what is going to affect the kids, right? What's going to move that needle? Um, and if there were a whole bunch of transcendent things that have been brought to the table that were effective, then they would have happened or they would be happening. They aren't happening. And a lot of those haven't happened in the past for whatever reason. I'm not here to relitigate any failures of any organizations, either in the building that I'm in or that have come before me. But what I am committed to is learning from some of those failures and uh, making sure that everything that we bring forth is effective. And I will turn over every rock, look under every rug to make sure what we are doing is progressive and that it is actually making a difference and moving the needle towards progress, because that's what this generation deserves, right? And I can look at myself in the mirror and I can see a lot that I've done in terms of education, but I can see my failures. I will never forget um, a I guess it was an older black woman, probably around 2014. I think her son was in one of the groups that Dojo Percussion was performing at a contest here. And she said, "Son, this is so great what you're doing. Um, uh, why haven't you done something like this down on the north side or for our people?" And that stuck with me. Like I really had nothing I had no comeback for that, right? Because yeah, I'm living my life. I'm uh, doing a lot to educate, and I'm raising my son by myself. But it's about being as effective as you can be. It's about you know uh, where there's more of a need, more is required. And that's the headspace that I'm going into this with. It's like there is a huge need and I have something to give and I'm committed to that. So those are the classes. Just a few visuals. So these are some of like the group drum classes we could have. We'll have dance classes. And within the curriculum, every kid is going to have to know how to play piano or learn how to play piano, and every kid is going to learn and be involved in dance again, because a musician that can't dance is absolutely ridiculous, right? But I digress. So, piano classes, uh, group drum classes, music production, engineering, young DJs. Just some of the visuals that you guys can kind of see, uh, more boots on the ground, what would actually happen. Yeah, look at these toddlers. So I want to bring, I would love to have things that cover the whole gambit of age groups. So I would love to have like tiny classes for toddlers on Saturday morning or something. Just again, something that stimulates the young mind. Um, as well as having programs for seniors. You know, the whole rave now is this exercise regimen where people are playing drums on these exercise balls. I wish it was my idea. It's not, but hey, it's great, so I'm taking it, right? Um, Again, group drumline classes. You know, when I was coming up, man, like that video that I posted, drill teams were prevalent in the church, man. It's like, where are the drill teams at anymore? Where are the parades on 24th Street? Again, I can only uh, teach extremely effectively what moved me, right? Drill teams. I'm going to do everything I can to bring the spirit of that back. Uh, Again, because that touched me, and I think that there has been a void without having that. So that's another thing that I'm gonna really key on. Um, Again, I'm the director. My staff is being formed. Advisory boards are being formed. This is so new that a lot of stuff isn't uh, uh, hasn't fully being realized yet, but it is in the works. I think I got the green light, what, 3 weeks, a month ago. Um, Forms of revenue. There'll be a tuition that, man, I would love to be free. I don't know if that can happen, but um, as low as I know, and listen, I'm going into this what, you know, my mother was a single mother. I'm going into this what I'm thinking my family would have been able to afford. I think that's a good gauge, right? Obviously, the less it costs, the more is going to be required from our philanthropic community, from fundraising, donors, all of the above. And we will be aggressively enduring this program to all of that. Um, so fundraising, the recording studio will be another form of revenue. It was important to me not only to build cool stuff, but to put stuff in there that I think could be uh, a form to bring something back. We have the toddler master music classes, senior music classes. We have clinics and master classes. Um, One of the beautiful things that we're going to be able to take advantage of is all the cats that I know around the world that I've either played with, produced, been involved with on a musical level that are at the highest level that you can possibly be at as a performer. Um, I haven't seen it to that degree. Like the stuff I'm planning and the musicians that I've reached out to, um, I think I've only seen it at this level where you really have that far of a reach at a place like Berkeley. And it's because of my connections that um, we will be blessed to be able to take advantage of. So I've already got commitments from. I'm not even going to start naming people because it's a lot, and we have things planned for this summer because really the doors probably won't be open for a year to 14 months, but we're going to have lots of things going on sponsored by the school in that time. And it's important to me to keep those things in North Omaha. Um, again, so there's a whole lot that is being planned in the interim. So we had concerts, donors, we'll have a student store, coffee shop. Again, I wish it was my idea, but it's not. Um, when I was at Berkeley, we had something called calf shows, basically in our dining hall for the students' entertainment. You'd have other kids that could perform. So it was not only entertainment, but it was a way for the students of the school to have an outlet for performance. I definitely want to create something like that uh, at the academy. And we could have great coffee there. It'd be a place for when we do throw shows and events. It's a meeting place like any other performance venue. It's just a uh, great lobby for gathering. Um, and cultural media programming. There's lots of other things that are progressive that I'm gonna really push to take advantage of to bring about revenue. But I think it is important, especially when you're going to the philanthropic community and saying, "Hey, listen, donate to this because it's awesome." They need to see that you are maximizing everything you possibly can to do for yourself. So that's what I'm going to ensure that we are trying to do. Our mission statement, as of now, and this will probably get enhanced, but it's very simple: empowering the community through music and art. Uh, very simple. And this is going to impact the entire community, not only the North Omaha community at large, but Omaha as a city. What I've been doing in the past month is just going out and developing those relationships, reaching out to others that are in the uh, youth music education game. It was great that as soon as I got greenlit, one of the first people that I heard from was Mark Kressel over at the Omaha Conservatory of Music. And I've been over there to tour their facility probably 4 or 5 times. I'm probably getting on his nerves at this point. But he was so giving uh, of information that was going to uh, help our process. Uh, he shared so much wisdom, and I really appreciate all that he was able to give me. Um, and I did a lot of research on what the organization was. Like when I came to town, I remember I think they were like in a church basement, right? So being able to watch another organization grow uh, is another reason why I absolutely know this can be successful and will be successful. Um, uh, yeah. So North Omaha Music and Art. That's it as in a nutshell, man. This is I'm more excited about this than I think anything uh I've been involved with uh in my musical journey, just because of how far reaching that I feel it can be, how many lives I know that it can impact. Um and one of the gifts that I think I have more than anything that I've been blessed with, um that goes beyond being able to play music. I think one of the things that I've been able to do is been able to motivate young people, which really is what matters. I could know half of what I know about music, but my ability to motivate young people to maximize who they are, I think will be one of the strengths of what we stand for.
Thank you so much, Dana. We did get a few questions and comments as you were speaking and put those on hold. so that we could let you get through your presentation. And so we'll start up here with Martine Quattry. Asks, how and where will Nona advertise to the community about this opportunity? And Nona, in case anyone does not know, is the North Omaha Neighborhood Association, which is an umbrella organization to cover all of the North Omaha neighborhoods.
So
Nicole, did she mean Noma?
No, I think Nona, the North Omaha Neighborhood Association.
right. How will we advertise?
I think they're looking to help you out and spread the word.
Well, I thought she meant Martine. Did you mean Noma or Nona?
Oh, she did mean Noma.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. Yeah, and it's kind of close.
Right. But you know what? Again, there are a lot of ideas that I might have that I could just pull out right now. Oh, we're gonna do this. There are people that do this, right? And I will tell you that we have an incredible marketing team that is taking us on as a nonprofit, Anderson Partners. That is, I mean, that's massive. So we'll have a publicist. We'll have someone that helps us with wordsmithing on all of our investment endeavors or going after donors, putting our name out there the right way. Stuff that would cost a corporation a couple $100,000. They've taken us on as a partner, and that is huge. So that, I will tell you, is one of the biggest things that we have going right now. But again, that's not my area of expertise. And like I said, I'm going to max out what I do in my level of expertise. All the other stuff, I love the spirit. Is going to take everybody with ideas to make it everything that it can be.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add that I believe it was March 5th when we gave the thumbs up for, NOMA to begin, to said, hey, this is the programming we want. And so there's a strategic planning process that's now taking place, because anything of this magnitude, of this level of excellence, is going to take the planning and the strategy to make sure it's all that we want it to be, all that the community needs it to be. And so, but these ideas are important, right? And these opportunities to potentially collaborate are important. And, opportunities to fundraise, right? Opportunities to get your hands dirty for this work is definitely going to be needed. And something that Dana has continued to say is, this is not just my program. It's going to take all of us. And if you're listening to this call today, that's what I want you to walk away with in the conversations. Next time you're in the barbershop, next time you're at church, next time you're in the grocery store. Hey, what's going on down there at Love's Jazz? Tell them it's going to take all of us. And I think if we have that mindset, we're going to make this what it needs to be for the community.
So with that in mind, particularly that things have been moving quickly and that the program is not set, so there will be more to come. And I'm sure that Dana and Lavanya will help keep everyone in the loop, particularly as this is still a city-owned property and has public funds in it. We'll ask some more questions that may not have an answer yet. So Vaughn Chapman asks, will you have a relationship with the Omaha Public Schools?
Indeed. And I've already started. Well, for one, I already have a relationship on my public schools, as I taught there for so long. So it was very easy for me to reach out to the players that make things happen, who heard about what was happening going on. Actually, a lot of them reached out to me before I even had to reach out for them and say, listen, I'm on board with whatever you're doing. This is awesome. This is going to be great. So there's a whole lot, and there will be a website being built here soon, as well as a Facebook page. So we'll make sure everyone is in the loop about what's going on. But it definitely, OPS is one of uh, the biggest partnerships that we can partake in.
N. Omar Valentine says, might also be a good opportunity to revive the NAACP Act / SO program, which I am not familiar with. So I'm sorry if I am totally butchering how that Act SO program is supposed to be said in Omaha. And then Levon Stennis Williams says, will the curriculum include art and music history of periods such as the Harlem Renaissance and Black Arts Movement? And I think that Dana said that music history will certainly be a very important part of the programming. What would you like to add?
All the above. It's music history, it'll be taught. Black music history and its role and the importance of music in this country will be taught. It's vital that kids understand the playing field that they're on. And without that, they have no context as to their position within it. So it's essential to moving a kid from A to B that they understand where it comes from, you know.
I'd also like to say that to Dana's point, you know, the building itself is part of, it contributes to 38 buildings that then contribute to the historic district for North 24th Street. So that in itself has a historic component, but also one of the BID's missions is to elevate the history of North Omaha. And so having those combinations involved, it lends itself to making sure that North Omaha history and the role it played in the music industry is elevated. It was part of one of our mandates given to us as the BID by the mayor, and that is this programming needs to elevate North Omaha history and music. And so we plan to make that an objective of how the programming in this space moves forward. So there's a lot of pieces to that can come together very nicely.
Levon also says, this sounds awesome. I envision this being like the second line band schools in New Orleans for youth. How can the community sponsor a youth or help purchase their own instruments?
There will
That's a
be
great question.
the reason I had Chris Hankins talk from KHS. KHS is one of the largest distributors of musical instruments. Dojo Percussion was fortunate to be sponsored by drum company Mapex, who is under the umbrella of KHS, Evans Drumheads, Promark Drumsticks, anything musical we were sponsored by. I still have all these relationships. Now, obviously, when you're talking about Academy, that is a little bit more of a sponsorship requirement than it is just drums. So, but I definitely know that they are willing to be involved on some level, and all of those relationships as it pertains to instruments and providing instruments, all those sorts of relationships again are in the works. I want this has to be affordable for everyone. And again, I've seen that it can work. You know, I know what uh for instance, Omaha Conservatory of Music, I know how many dollars come into that school as donors. That's all public information. I made myself a student of finding out what everyone was doing as it related to donorship. So again, it is my job to endear this program to the philanthropic community and let them know, hey, this is important. This is absolutely important and essential. Uh, and again, if we're doing our job as a community, I don't think we'll have as much of a problem with funding it as people might think. I don't think this city lacks in funds. I think a lot of times it lacks in ideas. So there you have it.
I also think that that's a great question in terms of fundraising and sponsorship. It's something that, again, as a part of our strategic planning, we'll definitely begin to develop. How can you sponsor a kid? Is a great question that we need to define. And so it's something that as we communicate to the community, as this programming is developed, we'll definitely be sharing with individuals, with corporations, with organizations. So I think that's an excellent question and something that we do want to provide answers to in the weeks and months to come.
All right, now Martine also asks, will there be a social media page established so that we can
Yes.
follow developments?
It's coming. It's coming. We just got the name approved. It's coming.
All right. And then Levon Stennis Williams asks, what are the age groups? Which I think we covered pretty well, that the goal is to have classes programming for all age groups.
Yeah.
But I think the primary focus is on.
You know what? Let me touch on that because I don't know that I really touched on that. The core curriculum will predominantly go from like 4th, 5th grade, maybe younger, up through high school, up even maybe through college. It's less about a grade and more about, so dojo percussion, just so I'll give you a history on my methodology. The word dojo means place of the way, which was taken from martial arts. The way that we track progress of a student will be exactly the same. So if you start out in a white belt and progress to black belt in martial arts, we'll have the same, but it'll just be with a wristband. I think it's important to create things that get kids unified on one common goal, and that is excellence, a mindset on excellence, and creating peer pressure for excellence, an environment for that. So that's one of the ways that we're going to do that. So the age groups will go from middle school, probably up through high school and college, and I'm really excited about the idea of raising kids from 3rd, 4th grade, coming up through the academy, and then going through high school. Because I promise you, by the time they're out of high school, that's a pro, right? And we're talking about how do we build up this music scene here? How do we bring back such a rich music history for North 24th Street? No one's moving here from New York. No one's moving here from Chicago or LA or Nashville. We have to build them. We have to grow them. So I'm excited to see that process happening. Yeah.
Okay, and then the last question that we have right now is also from Levon Stennis Williams. Will they have uniforms or a dress code to participate? And it's okay if you don't have an answer yet.
I actually thought about that. Not a uniform, definitely not a uniform. I think they'll have to wear their wristband when they come in, much like a martial arts student can't come in without his gi, right? So something along those lines, again, just to build camaraderie and a sense of being on one accord. It won't be like the Fresh Prince though, and we won't have like the jackets or whatever.
Very good. That's all the questions I have so far. So we'll pause for 10 or 15 seconds if anyone wants to get a last question in. And then we will thank Lavanya and Dana for their time and their expertise and their work in the community, and move on to the CAPER. So 10 seconds starting now. Get your questions in.
While that we're waiting on the 10 seconds, I'm going to drop the Confluence social pinpoint in. It's not directly associated with Love's Jazz, but it is focused on North 24th Street, our streetscape plan. This is a great opportunity for anyone on this live stream to give us your feedback about what you want to see on North 24th Street. This has been a great conversation, guys. I want to have more of them. When people can ask meaningful questions, when we can think about maybe what we haven't thought about before, is a great way to move the needle for our community and specifically North 24th Street. So I just want to thank everybody. And thank you, Nicole, Dana, and everybody with your great questions.
Yeah, thank you. Will you also drop that in the Facebook Live feed? Thank you so much. All right, we have not gotten any other questions, so we're going to move on to our CAPER. Thank you both so much. And of course, feel free to stick around, everyone, and hear about what we've been up to for the last year. So to do that, I am going to play a prepared video that Lisa Smith, one of our other planners, has made that just runs through some of the data that is in our CAPER. The accomplishments is what the CAPER covers, things that we did in 2020. And it's about 12 minutes long. And then you can ask whatever questions you have. And if I don't have the answer, then I will find it and get back to you. So my turn to share the screen and pull up the presentation first. All right, here we go.
Welcome to Omaha's 2020 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report. The CAPER reviews our annual accomplishments to HUD. This includes how federal funding is spent and how our annual goals and 5-year goals have been met to date, along with actions the city has taken in the past year to affirmatively further fair housing. All of the funding priorities serve very low and low and moderate income households in the city and special needs populations. Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG funds, support neighborhood revitalization, affordable housing, non-homeless supportive housing, economic development, and fair housing-focused projects and programs. Home Investment Partnership funds support housing construction, affordable housing, and fair housing activities. Emergency Solutions Grant, or ESG funds, support emergency shelter operations, rapid rehousing, and services to prevent homelessness. Our 5-year and annual goals listed here are based on priorities identified during the 2019-2023 Consolidated Plan development. They were established based on needs identified through public and stakeholder input, focus groups, the needs assessment, housing market analysis, and the AFFH, or Analysis of Impediments process. Funding priorities are affirmed in subsequent public meetings through community input. Priorities the community identified in order of highest priority to lowest were neighborhood revitalization, affordable housing, homelessness, non-homeless supportive housing, economic development, fair housing, and community resilience. All of the plans and this CAPER are available on our website at planninghcd.cityofomaha.org. And now let's take a look at the accomplishments in 2020 in each of the priority areas. In 2020, the city demolished 20 unfit and unsafe buildings with CDBG funds and 65 with the city's general funds. A code enforcement inspector was hired in 2019 and dedicated to serving the North NRSA, or Neighborhood Revitalization Strategy area. There were 399 code violation cases completed in the North NRSA in 2020. In many cases, the inspector made repeated follow-up visits to properties to ensure owners resolved all violations for a total of 1,549 visits. The volume of repeated visits per case speaks to the poor condition of much of North Omaha's housing and the need for a continued focus on housing rehabilitations. CDBG funding also provided sidewalk improvements serving about 18,090 residents in the North and South NRSAs. In 2020, the city completed 15 home-funded new single-family construction projects and 632 CDBG-funded owner-occupied housing rehabilitation projects. These included emergency repairs, exterior rehabs, energy conservation, handyman, barrier removal, and roof replacement programs. 4 single-family home rehabs for resale and 8 rental rehab projects were also completed utilizing home funds. Nobility Point, a multifamily new construction project, was not finished in time for inclusion in the 2020 CAPER totals, but was completed in early 2021 and will be included in that year's CAPER. Emergency Solutions Grant funding provided rapid rehousing to 37 households and supported the Metro Area Homeless Management Information System. ESG assistance to Sienna Francis House and Stevens Center provided shelter operating expenses for 3,427 individuals, or 145,383 bed nights. Bed nights refers to the number of beds occupied each night for the year, including beds occupied by the same individual for multiple nights. Omaha Housing Authority provided tenant-based rental assistance to 40 formerly homeless households with home funds. Family Housing Advisory Services provided financial and housing education to 113 households with CDBG funds. Private mortgage financing and city second mortgage underwriting were provided by Omaha 100 to 18 low and moderate income households with CDBG and private funding sources. Altogether, 647 non-homeless households were provided affordable housing support in 2020. COVID, of course, made everything change, including plans and how we and our partners carry out activities. This caused some delays and reductions due to social distancing. Despite the disruption, Step Up provided 180 youth with employment and job training. And in 2021, Catholic Charities Microenterprise Assistance, Love's Jazz Rehabilitation, and Goodwin's Barbershop projects will get underway. CARES Act funded programs to address COVID are ongoing. The funds continue to help us provide things like rent assistance, microenterprise support, meal delivery, COVID testing, and housing for people experiencing homelessness. Those accomplishments will be reported in future CAPERs when the projects are completed. However, the programs have been instrumental in helping the city respond to COVID-19 and helping residents remain safely housed. Efforts to remove the negative effects of zoning and land use controls include the passage of Omaha's transit-oriented development zoning in 2020. The zoning allows the creation of accessory dwelling units on parcels with existing single-family structures. Accessory units create density and provide additional affordable housing, typically for students and seniors. Omaha will also develop and adopt an Affordable Housing Action Plan by 2024 to fulfill Nebraska's new Municipal Density and Missing Middle Housing Act requirements for increasing density and the affordable housing inventory. Implementation of Omaha's rental registration system in 2020 helps us ensure all rental properties are regularly inspected and maintained in safe, decent conditions. We are also working to increase our public and private coordination. Neighborhood planning staff have been very active in meeting and communicating with residents and neighborhood groups. And the Human Rights and Relations Office has held numerous educational events and outreach activities. For more detailed information on what we're doing to ensure fair housing and affirmative marketing, please see sections CR 35 and CR 50 of the CAPER. Our final priority area is community resilience. The urgency for a recovery plan increases every year, whether it's due to storm damage or other kinds of disasters. And it's not just what happens in Omaha that concerns us, but when events like flooding happen in other areas, it can strain affordable housing availability in Omaha. We are currently planning a housing recovery and community resilience workshop for the fall of 2021. And now we'll take a look at how projects were made possible with federal funds. The allocations shown for CDBG, Home, and ESG are our regular funding received from Congress and do not include CARES Act CV funds. The amounts expended, shown in yellow, includes program income and previous year's funds. Because we had those additional funds and because COVID reduced or delayed some activities in 2020, it has left us with a large amount of carryover funding to 2021. We have an estimated $950,000 in CDBG and $2.2 million in home funding that will carry over to 2021. The city leveraged over $3.8 million in matching funds in 2020. Matches from Step Up Summer Youth Employment Program, Omaha 100, Family Housing Advisory Services, and Youth Emergency Services leveraged public and private funds with CDBG funds. The city leveraged $1.1 million in home matching funds in 2020. In addition to these funds, Habitat for Humanity provided a home match in the form of volunteer labor for demolitions. The Nebraska Affordable Housing Trust Fund provided $600,000 in support of new housing construction completed in 2020. All ESG funds are matched one-to-one with private funds provided by the ESG recipients. The recipients' match was slightly more than one-to-one to also cover the city's administrative match cost for a total of $404,899. And finally, we'll look at where these investments took place. The CDBG and home investments shown here include new housing construction, housing rehabilitation, code inspections, demolitions, and sidewalk improvements. They do not include homebuyer education, public services, job training, or other non-housing activities. The city spent about 74% of its CDBG and home funds on housing and neighborhood improvement activities in the central city east of 72nd Street, and 54% of the funds in the north and south NRSAs, where at least 51% of the population are low and moderate income. Of the 1,060 housing activities completed citywide in 2020, 94% were east of 72nd Street, 71% were in the North NRSA, 1.2% were in the South NRSA, and 28% were outside of an NRSA. The increasing percentage of housing rehabilitation projects occurring outside the NRSA areas indicates a growing shift in areas of need as the housing stock ages and the number of low and moderate income households increases in other areas of the city. Approximately 64% of CDBG and home funds supported activities that reached areas of low income concentration. Those are the green areas on the map. These areas are defined in the 2019-2023 Consolidated Plan as census tracts with a population with an estimated median household income of less than 80% area median income, and more than 25% of the population is below the poverty level. The definition is based on HUD's 2018 area median income calculation for Omaha, which was $65,300 for a family of 4. You can read the full CAPER report on our webpage at planninghcd.cityofomaha.org. We encourage you to do that. Please let us know your thoughts, or if you have any questions about this report, by submitting your comments to hcdcomments@cityofomaha.org. Public comment for this report is open until April 24th. The CAPER will be submitted to HUD the following week. Thank you.
Okay, that is the end of the CAPER video. It's something new that we've tried. I hope that you all found it valuable. I think that we found it really valuable to put together. And I just want to thank Lisa for such an extremely clear and communicative presentation, because that's not a way that we've ever presented our CAPER before. And I think it's really great and certainly easier for you all to understand. So while I am monitoring the Facebook feed and the chat here, does anyone have any questions about the CAPER? Seeing none so far, and I'll keep checking back for the Facebook since it runs behind us. The comment period on both the use for the Loves Jazz building as well as on the CAPER runs through from today through April 24th. So you can submit any comments to that to our email at hcdcomments@cityofomaha.org, and I'll put that in the chat box. And that video will also be available. Sorry, I cannot type and talk at the same time. That video is available on our website and our YouTube so that you can watch it as a standalone. Again, it's about 12 minutes long. So once again, comment period runs through April 24th. Please send comments to hcdcomments@cityofomaha.org, and then we can answer any questions that you might have and include any of your comments in with the document that we submit to HUD. So with that said, I think that's all we have today. Thank you, Dana. Thank you, Lavanya. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you to everyone who came and watched our meeting and asked questions. Your participation is greatly valued. Have a really great day.